Aita for not inviting my estranged mother to my wedding. I never wanted to be the villain in my own story, but here we are. I'm getting married in just 2 days, and I've been sitting here, staring at the invitation list, feeling sick to my stomach. You see, I didn't invite my mother. That's right, my estranged mother. The woman who left when I was 10 and showed up again when I was 15. The woman who, well, let me take you back to where it all began. My childhood wasn't filled with fairy tales. My mother was like a storm that never passed, constantly brewing with chaos. I remember the way she would sit on the couch, a glass of wine clutched in her hand, her eyes glazed over like she was staring into another world. My father tried his best, but I think even he was lost in the storm. I can still hear the yelling, the tears, and the way the walls felt like they were closing in on me. There was a night that changed everything. I must have been about 10. I had just won a spelling bee at school, my first real accomplishment. I ran home, bursting with excitement, ready to show my mother my trophy. I found her in the living room, the TV blaring as she slumped on the couch. "Look what I won, Mom," I shouted, holding the trophy high above my head. She barely glanced at it. "That's nice, honey," she said, her voice dripping with disinterest. I felt that familiar knot in my stomach, but I pressed on, hoping to spark some sort of connection. "Can we celebrate? Maybe go out for ice cream?" In an instant, her mood shifted. She exploded. "Ice cream? You think I have money for ice cream? You're just like your father, always wanting more." She knocked my trophy to the floor, and it shattered into pieces. I stood there, speechless, as she hurled insults that cut deeper than any knife. After that night, I learned to stay out of her way. I became a ghost in my own home. When she left for good, I thought it was the best day of my life. I was finally free. But freedom came with its own set of chains. My father fell apart, and I had to step up. I became the caretaker of my own broken family. Fast forward to my engagement. Jake is everything I ever wanted. He's kind, funny, and supportive. He's been my rock through all the chaos. We planned a beautiful wedding, and for once, I felt like I was on solid ground. But as I sent out the invitations, I faced the inevitable decision: do I invite my mother? I thought about it for days, weighing my options. What would it look like to have her there? She hadn't reached out in years, no phone calls, no birthdays, nothing. The thought of her walking through those doors, her chaotic energy overwhelming the happiness I'd built, made my stomach churn. I made my choice. I didn't invite her. It felt right, but the anxiety lingered like a dark cloud. Friends and family were supportive, telling me it was my day and I had the right to choose who would share it with me. But I couldn't shake the feeling that I was making a mistake. Then, the strange things began. It started with an unsettling phone call. I answered, only to hear heavy breathing on the other end. My heart raced as I glanced at the caller ID, unknown. I hung up, dismissing it as a prank. But then I received a message on social media, something vague and cryptic: "You'll regret your decision." I brushed it off, but I couldn't help but feel that I was being watched. Every time I stepped outside, a chill ran down my spine, as if someone were lurking just out of sight. My friends noticed my unease and urged me to reconsider inviting her. "What if she shows up?" One friend said. "You need to be prepared." But I wasn't going to give in to fear. I was done being controlled by her presence. The night before the wedding, I lay in bed, anxiety gnawing at me. I tossed and turned, but sleep eluded me. That's when the nightmares began. I dreamt of my mother, her face twisted in anger, her voice echoing through the darkness, telling me I'd made a terrible mistake. I woke up in a cold sweat, my heart racing. The day of the wedding dawned bright and sunny, yet I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. As I prepared, I noticed odd things. A photo of my mother from years ago appeared on my nightstand, though I had tucked it away in a box. My skin prickled with unease. At the venue, surrounded by friends and family, I tried to push my fears aside. Everything was perfect: the flowers, the decorations, the love in the air. But then it happened. Just as the ceremony was about to start, I saw her. My mother, standing at the edge of the crowd, looking different, disheveled, wild-eyed. My heart dropped. I felt a surge of panic as she stepped forward, her voice cutting through the joyous atmosphere. "You can't do this without me. You need to hear the truth," guests gasped, and I froze. My breath caught in my throat as I took in the scene. My mother wasn't just back, she was erratic and desperate, her eyes wide and wild as she looked around, searching for me. The officiant tried to calm her, but she pushed past him, drawing nearer. "You don't understand," she shouted. "You think you're free. You're just like me. This wedding is a lie." A shiver ran through me as memories flooded back, the chaos, the instability. "Mom, please. You don't belong here," I yelled, my voice breaking. Then she revealed something that made my blood run cold. "You think you're safe? You don't know what I've done for you. I kept the darkness away so you could live a normal life. But you'll never escape me." The air grew heavy, suffocating. My friends stepped back, exchanging worried glances. I felt a wave of panic rise within me, and I realized that the years of estrangement hadn't kept her darkness at bay. It had only festered, waiting for a moment like this. The crowd murmured, confusion and fear in their eyes. I caught Jake's gaze, his expression a mix of concern and disbelief. I turned to my mother, desperate to understand what she meant. "What are you talking about?" But she only laughed, a chilling, manic sound that echoed through the venue. "You'll find out soon enough. Just remember, you invited this darkness into your life." In that moment, I knew I had to protect what I had built. I couldn't let her ruin my day. "Get out!" I screamed, my voice rising above the chaos. "You're not welcome here." The words hung in the air, heavy and final. Her expression shifted, and for a brief moment, I saw something else in her eyes: hurt, vulnerability. But it was gone as quickly as it appeared. With a shake of her head, she turned and fled, disappearing into the crowd. The tension in the air was palpable, but I had to push through. The ceremony resumed, but my heart was still racing. I felt the weight of her presence linger, like a shadow creeping into my thoughts. As I exchanged vows with Jake, I couldn't shake the feeling that my mother had left a mark on this day. A reminder that no matter how far I ran, her darkness would always be a part of me. After the ceremony, I found a moment alone on the balcony, trying to clear my mind. The sun was setting, casting a warm glow over everything, but the unease refused to leave me. I felt a hand on my shoulder and turned to see Jake, concern etched on his face. "Are you okay?" he asked softly. I took a deep breath, trying to steady myself. "I don't know," I admitted. "I thought I was free from her. I thought this was my chance to start fresh." Jake pulled me into a comforting embrace. "You are free, but you can't change your past. Just focus on us. We'll figure this out together." As we stood there, I felt a flicker of hope. Maybe my mother was right about one thing: I had invited darkness into my life by not confronting my past. But I didn't have to let it control me anymore. I could choose to move forward, to embrace the love I had found. But as the night wore on, the feeling of unease returned. I glanced around, half expecting to see my mother lurking in the shadows, waiting for her moment to strike. And as I looked out into the darkness, I couldn't help but wonder, was I truly safe? Or was the darkness always going to be a part of me? I didn't have the answers, but I knew one thing for sure: I would fight to protect my new life, no matter what it took. So, am I the asshole for not inviting my estranged mother to my wedding? Maybe. But sometimes, to protect the light, you have to confront the shadows lurking in the corners of your heart. I'll let you decide. My boyfriend's secret double life, found out through a random phone call. I never expected a simple phone call to unravel the life I thought I knew. My name is Anna, and I'm in my late 20s. I've been with my boyfriend, Mike, for almost 2 years. When we first met at a mutual friend's party, I was instantly drawn to his charm and wit. He was everything I ever wanted in a partner: kind, ambitious, and a little mysterious. We spent countless nights laughing and dreaming about our future, building a life together that felt solid and secure. One evening, while Mike was working late, I found myself curled up on the couch with a glass of wine, scrolling through social media. It was a typical night. I thought I'd call it an early night when my phone rang. The caller ID showed an unknown number. My heart raced. I hesitated but answered. "Hello?" I said, a little unsure. "Is this Anna?" The voice on the other end was distorted, sounding panicked. Yes. Who is this?" There was a pause, and then the voice rushed, "You need to listen to me." "Is Mike there?" "He's in trouble." I felt a chill run down my spine. What do you mean? Who are you? I can't explain right now. Just. He's not who you think he is. He's in danger. You need to find him. Before I could respond, the call dropped. I stared at my phone, bewildered. My mind raced with confusion. I brushed it off as a prank or a wrong number, but the seed of doubt was planted deep in my thoughts. The next few days were filled with strange occurrences. Mike continued to work late, but his stories started to feel inconsistent. One evening, he claimed he was finishing up a project, but his texts came in erratically. I found it odd that he'd leave his phone unlocked, revealing a few odd messages from contacts I didn't recognize. I was starting to feel uneasy. Mike's behavior became more distant, and I couldn't shake the feeling that he was hiding something. A few nights later, I was lying in bed next to him, unable to sleep. I decided to investigate. I quietly grabbed his phone from the nightstand and scrolled through his messages. Most were mundane, but one stood out: "We need to meet. It's urgent." The name attached to the message was unfamiliar. Panic surged through me. What was going on? My heart raced as I put his phone back and tried to act normal when he stirred next to me. The next day, I took it a step further. I started checking his social media. His profile seemed pristine, almost too perfect. Nothing out of the ordinary. But I couldn't shake the feeling that something was terribly wrong. I needed to know the truth, so I went to a few of Mike's friends, casually asking about him. They all had nice things to say, but I couldn't shake the feeling that they were hiding something. I finally decided to confront him. "Mike," I said one evening as he walked in from work, "I need to talk to you about something." He looked concerned, setting his bag down. "Sure, what's up? Is there something you're not telling me?" I took a deep breath, trying to keep my voice steady. "I got a strange phone call the other night. Someone said you were in trouble." He frowned, crossing his arms. "That's ridiculous. I'm fine. You shouldn't listen to random callers." "But I found some messages on your phone," I pressed, feeling the anger bubbling up. "And your stories haven't added up." Mike's face shifted from confusion to something darker. "Anna, you need to drop this. It's nothing. I promise." His reaction only fueled my determination. I decided to dig deeper. A week passed, and my paranoia intensified. Then, late one night, I received another call from the same unknown number. My heart raced as I answered. "Anna." The voice was clearer this time, but still distorted. "You need to get out. Mike is not who you think he is. He has a past, a dangerous one. He's been lying to you." I felt my stomach drop. "What do you mean?" "I can't explain everything over the phone, but you need to trust me. He's in trouble with people who want him dead. They're looking for him. And they'll come for you too if they find out you're with him." The words hit me like a punch to the gut. I was shaking as I hung up. My mind raced with fear and confusion. Mike had never mentioned anything about his past. What had I gotten myself into? The next day, I confronted him again. I spoke to that caller. "I need you to tell me the truth. Who are you, Mike?" He looked shocked, almost frightened. "Anna, please. You have to trust me. I left that life behind. I thought I could start fresh with you. But you're in danger, aren't you?" I pressed. "What kind of danger?" He hesitated, his expression flickering between guilt and desperation. "It's complicated. I can't go into details, but there are people who want revenge. I've tried to protect you, but now I don't know if I can." Just then, a loud noise interrupted our conversation. The sound of sirens wailed in the distance, growing louder. I felt a surge of panic as Mike's eyes widened. "Anna, you have to listen to me. We need to leave. Now." My heart raced. "What's happening?" He grabbed my hand, pulling me towards the door. "I'll explain everything later, but you have to trust me." As we reached the door, the phone rang again, the screen lighting up with the unknown number. I froze, torn between answering and fleeing. Mike was tugging me to go, but I could feel my heart pounding in my ears. "Anna, answer it. It could be important," he shouted. I glanced at the phone, the urge to know pulling me in both directions. With a shaky breath, I answered, my voice trembling. "Hello? Anna. Listen carefully. You need to get away from him. He's not the man you think he is. Panic washed over me as Mike's grip tightened on my arm. I looked into his eyes, searching for reassurance, but all I saw was fear. Who are you? I demanded, my voice breaking. I can't explain right now, but you need to trust me. He's dangerous. Run. Before I could respond, Mike yanked the phone from my hand and ended the call. Anna, we don't have time for this. The sirens were almost upon us, and a sense of urgency flooded the air. I was caught in a whirlwind of emotions, fear, love, betrayal. Please, just tell me the truth, I cried out, desperate for answers. Just trust me. We can get away, and I'll explain everything. But in that moment, I realized I didn't know who to trust. The sirens echoed around us, growing louder, and I was left standing at the crossroads of love and survival, wondering if I'd ever truly known the man I loved. As I looked into Mike's eyes, I was struck by the uncertainty of it all. Would I run with him into the unknown, or would I stand my ground and face whatever awaited me? I had a choice to make, and it would change everything. In that moment of hesitation, I knew one thing: whatever path I chose, I would never see my life the same way again. Entitled parent demands my life savings for their kid's college fund. I never thought I'd find myself in a situation like this. My name is Jake, and I'm in my late 20s. For years, I've worked hard, saving every penny I could for my future. I've always believed in the value of hard work and financial independence. Growing up, my parents instilled in me the importance of saving and planning for the future. I was proud of my small savings account, meticulously built over time, which represented my dreams of home ownership and financial security. Everything changed when I met an entitled parent at a community event. It was a warm Saturday afternoon, and I was enjoying the local farmers market, browsing stalls and sampling fresh produce. That's when I struck up a conversation with Lisa, a mother who was proudly boasting about her kids. She had an infectious energy about her, and I initially found her enthusiasm endearing. As we chatted, she told me all about her daughter, who was starting college soon. I admired her dedication to her children's education, but I couldn't shake the feeling that there was something off about her attitude. She casually mentioned how she was struggling to cover the tuition fees. I offered my sympathy, thinking how hard it must be to manage finances with kids in college. Little did I know that small talk would lead to a nightmare. A few days later, I received a text from Lisa, out of the blue. It was a simple message asking if I had a moment to chat. I didn't think much of it at first. After all, we had shared a pleasant conversation. I agreed to meet her at the local cafe. As I walked in, Lisa was already there, sitting at a table with an eager smile. We exchanged pleasantries, but soon the conversation took a turn. Jake, she said, her tone shifting to something more serious, I really need your help. My heart sank. I had a feeling I knew where this was going. Lisa went on to explain that her daughter's college tuition was due soon, and despite her best efforts, she just couldn't cover it all. I know you have a decent amount saved up, she said, leaning closer. I was hoping you could lend me some money to help her out. It would mean the world to me. I felt my stomach drop. Lisa, I don't think I can do that. I've been saving for a home, and it's really all I have. The look on her face turned from hope to disbelief. But you're in a good place financially. It's just money, Jake. It's for my daughter's future. I shook my head, feeling cornered. I'm sorry, but I really can't. It's not that simple. The conversation escalated as she pressed me further. You're being selfish. If you really cared about education, you'd help us out. You have the means, and this could change my daughter's life. I felt the walls closing in. It's not about being selfish. It's my savings. I worked hard for this. Lisa's demeanor shifted. She was no longer the enthusiastic mother I had met. She was angry now, a different side of her, that I hadn't seen. You can't let your selfishness stand in the way of my child's future. Think about it. You have no idea what it's like to struggle. I left the cafe feeling violated and angry. Over the next few days, I tried to forget about our encounter, but Lisa's words echoed in my mind. It felt like emotional manipulation. The pressure to help her was mounting, but I knew I couldn't give in. A week later, I received another message from Lisa, this time more aggressive. Jake, my daughter is counting on you. If you don't help us, we'll lose everything. My heart raced with anxiety. I decided I had to find out more about her situation. I reached out to a few mutual friends, trying to piece together the truth behind Lisa's claims. What I discovered shocked me. It turned out that Lisa had a history of being entitled and manipulative. She had constantly relied on others to bail her out of financial problems and had a reputation for making unrealistic demands. I felt a surge of anger mixed with relief. I wasn't alone in feeling that something wasn't right. Armed with this knowledge, I felt ready to confront her. The next time I saw Lisa was at a neighborhood barbecue. She approached me with her usual smile, but I could see the tension behind it. "Jake, have you thought more about helping out?" she asked sweetly. I took a deep breath, steeling myself for what was to come. "Lisa, I've heard some things, and I want to be clear. I can't help you." Her expression shifted instantly to one of fury. "You think you're better than us? You're nothing but a self-righteous prick." Her outburst drew the attention of others at the barbecue. I stood my ground. "I'm just trying to protect myself. You can't expect everyone to cater to your demands." The confrontation became heated, and Lisa's face twisted in rage as she shouted accusations about my character. "You're going to regret this, Jake. I'll make sure everyone knows what you really are." I felt a chill run down my spine. The weight of her threats hung in the air. After that day, the situation escalated further. Lisa began spreading rumors about me in our community, painting me as greedy and uncaring. I started to feel isolated, watching as friends I once trusted began to pull away. The anxiety of the situation gnawed at me, and I knew I had to take action. I considered reporting her behavior, but part of me hesitated, unsure if it would make things worse. Then, one evening, I received a text from an unknown number. "Jake, we need to talk. Meet me at the old park after dark." My heart raced at the thought. Was it Lisa? I had no choice but to confront this once and for all. As night fell, I made my way to the park, my mind racing with possibilities. I arrived to find Lisa waiting, her figure illuminated by the dim light of a nearby lamp. "You're brave, I'll give you that," she sneered as I approached. "But you've made a big mistake." I stood tall, refusing to let fear consume me. "I'm not scared of you, Lisa. I know what you've been doing, and I won't let you manipulate me anymore." Her smile twisted into something sinister. "You don't understand the lengths I'm willing to go to protect my family." In that moment, I realized how deep her entitlement ran. She was a force to be reckoned with, someone who believed the world owed her something. I felt the need to protect myself and my reputation. I pulled out my phone, ready to document this encounter. "You're not going to get away with this, Lisa. I'll make sure everyone knows the truth." Her expression faltered for a moment, but then her anger returned. "You think you can intimidate me with that little phone? You have no idea who you're dealing with." The tension between us crackled like electricity, and I realized that I was finally standing my ground. "You're not going to manipulate me anymore. I'm done." I turned to leave, my heart racing with adrenaline, but before I could take a step, she lunged at me, grabbing my arm. "You think you can walk away? You'll regret this." I jerked my arm away and hurried out of the park, my mind racing. I knew I had to take a stand. The next day, I reached out to some of the friends who had distanced themselves and shared the truth about Lisa's behavior. To my surprise, many of them had seen through her facade, and they were willing to stand by me. I organized a small gathering, inviting everyone who had been affected by Lisa's actions. We shared stories and experiences, realizing how far she had manipulated people. Empowered by the support of my friends, I decided to confront Lisa publicly. At the next community meeting, I stood up and recounted my experience, detailing how she had pressured me and spread lies about me. As I spoke, I could see heads nodding in agreement, and the atmosphere shifted. Lisa's face turned crimson with anger, and she tried to interrupt, but the crowd hushed her. I realized then that I wasn't alone in this fight. When the meeting ended, people began coming up to me, expressing their support and sharing similar stories about Lisa's entitlement. I felt a weight lift off my shoulders. No longer was I the target, I was part of a collective voice against her manipulation. Lisa, on the other hand, was now the one on the outskirts, isolated and angry. The final straw came a few weeks later when Lisa tried to approach me again, her demeanor more subdued. Jake, I think we can work something out, she said, desperation in her eyes. Let's just put this behind us. I looked her dead in the eye, my voice steady. You had your chance, Lisa. You can't keep using people to get what you want. I'm not afraid of you anymore. I turned away, feeling a sense of empowerment wash over me. The experience had changed me, forcing me to confront not just Lisa but my own fears. I realized that entitlement could manifest in many ways, and sometimes, standing up for yourself was the only way to reclaim your life. As I walked away, I couldn't help but feel grateful for the support I had found in my community. I had learned valuable lessons about boundaries, entitlement, and the power of standing your ground. While Lisa's story was still far from over, I knew that I had taken a stand for myself, and in doing so, I had inspired others to do the same. It's a reminder to always be cautious about whom to trust and to stand firm against those who seek to exploit kindness. Caught my best friend gossiping about my relationship. What should I do? I never thought I would find myself in a situation like this, but here I am, sitting in the dark with my heart racing, trying to process what I just overheard. My best friend, Alex, and I have been inseparable since high school. We shared everything, secrets, dreams, and even the occasional embarrassing moment. When I started dating Chris a few months ago, I couldn't wait to introduce him to Alex, convinced he would love Chris as much as I did. I was so blissfully in love that I never considered the possibility of jealousy lurking beneath the surface. One Saturday afternoon, I decided to drop by Alex's apartment, hoping to surprise him with takeout from our favorite spot. I let myself in, knowing he was usually home on weekends. The apartment was quiet, which was odd, but I assumed he was just lounging around. As I made my way to the kitchen, I heard voices coming from the living room. I paused, thinking maybe he had friends over, but as I crept closer, I realized the conversation was about me. My stomach sank. I didn't mean to eavesdrop, but I could hear Alex's voice clearly, and what he was saying made my heart drop. I just don't get it, he said, his tone dripping with disdain. Why is she so into him? He's not even her type. I felt frozen in place, the warmth of my previous excitement replaced with ice-cold dread. I pressed myself against the wall, trying to make sense of what I was hearing. Alex went on, mocking my relationship, bringing up things I had confided in him about Chris, like how he always forgot little things, including my birthday. I couldn't believe it, I felt betrayed in the worst way. How could someone I trusted so deeply say those things? The laughter that followed from their conversation pierced my heart like a dagger. It felt like they were laughing at me, at my happiness, and suddenly, the world felt too bright, too suffocating. I didn't even think, I burst into the room, the anger boiling over. What the hell, Alex? I shouted, my voice trembling with rage. The laughter stopped abruptly, and I could see the shock in their faces. Alex's mouth opened and closed, like he was trying to find words but failing miserably. I was just joking, he stammered, but I could see the panic in his eyes. Just a joke? I couldn't contain my fury. You think this is funny? You're tearing me down behind my back. How could you do this to me? Alex shifted uncomfortably, trying to play it off. Come on, it was just harmless fun. You know I care about you, right? The words felt hollow, and a betrayal settled deep within me. I turned to Emma and Jake, who were both silent, their expressions a mix of surprise and discomfort. This isn't fun, Alex. This is betrayal, I yelled, the hurt spilling out of me like an overflowing dam. I stormed out, leaving Alex and our friends behind, and as I stepped into the cool air outside, I felt an emptiness take root in my chest. I spent the following days in a haze of anger and confusion. Alex began to distance himself from me, and I soon realized he was whispering about me to our other friends, manipulating them into believing I was overreacting. I felt like an outcast, a shadow among my own friends. The loneliness was suffocating. I missed the days when we would sit together, sharing laughter and dreams. I thought about reaching out, but every time I did, I heard Alex's mocking words echo in my mind. Days turned into weeks, and I began to experience strange occurrences. Late at night, I would wake up feeling like I was being watched, drenched in sweat and panic. I dismissed it as stress, but the unease only grew. I started receiving anonymous messages on my phone, cryptic lines like, "Trust no one and he's not what he seems." I brushed them off, thinking it was just someone trying to mess with me, but deep down, something felt off. I began to investigate. I dug through Alex's social media, looking for clues, and found a private group chat with Emma and Jake filled with messages about me, discussing how to keep me out of social plans. My stomach twisted as I read their plans to exclude me. I was devastated. It felt like they were all in on it, laughing behind my back while I thought we were friends. I couldn't shake the feeling that Alex was the mastermind behind it all. I confronted him again, but this time, it felt different. He was cold, distant, as if the warmth of our friendship had been replaced by something sinister. "You have no idea what I've done for you," he said, a strange glint in his eyes. "I've protected you." "From what?" I demanded, feeling the anger bubble up again. "What are you talking about?" But he just smiled, a twisted, unsettling smile that sent chills down my spine. In that moment, the realization hit me hard. Alex wasn't just a friend, he was controlling, possibly even dangerous. I knew I had to cut ties before it was too late. I distanced myself from him and the others, focusing on my own life. It felt liberating at first, but the shadows of doubt and fear still lurked. I could still feel Alex's eyes on me, lurking at the edges of my life. The last text I received from him was haunting: "You can't escape me." It left me with a lingering sense of dread. I've learned that trust is fragile and that sometimes, the ones closest to you can become your worst nightmare. Even now, as I reflect on everything that happened, I realize I'll never let my guard down again. If you're reading this, take heed. Be careful who you trust. Sometimes the people you think have your back are waiting for the perfect moment to betray you. And if you ever find yourself caught in a web of lies, remember that it's better to be alone than to be surrounded by false friends. Trust your instincts and always keep your eyes open, because you never know what darkness lurks in the hearts of those you thought you knew. Aita for telling my sister her fiancé is a gold digger. I never thought I would find myself in the middle of a family feud, but here we are, and it all started with my sister's engagement. Ever since Mia got together with Jake, things have felt off. Jake is charming, handsome, and has this magnetic personality that draws people in, but something about him always felt disingenuous to me. I couldn't quite put my finger on it at first, but the more I observed their relationship, the more concerned I became. Mia has always been the type to wear her heart on her sleeve, and when she fell for Jake, she fell hard. She talked about him nonstop, showering him with love and admiration, and while I wanted to be happy for her, I couldn't shake the feeling that Jake was more interested in her money than in her. After a few months of watching their relationship unfold, I started to notice some troubling patterns. Jake would casually mention his financial struggles, how he was between jobs, and how much he admired Mia's successful career as a graphic designer. At first, I tried to dismiss it as just a normal relationship, but then I heard him making comments about how Mia should treat them to nice dinners and vacations, which made my skin crawl. I had a feeling that he was living off her kindness and generosity, and it broke my heart to think that my sister might be getting taken advantage of. As time went on, I voiced my concerns to my parents, hoping they would see what I saw. But they shrugged it off, telling me I was just being protective and that I should give Jake a chance. I felt like I was screaming into a void, and my frustration only grew as Mia started planning their wedding. I was expected to stand by her side as a supportive sister, but I couldn't shake the feeling of dread. The more excited she became about the wedding, the more I feared what it would mean for her future. Finally, the day came when I could no longer hold my tongue. We were at a family dinner when Mia mentioned how much she loved Jake and couldn't wait to spend the rest of her life with him. I could feel my heart racing, and I knew I had to say something. I took a deep breath and blurted it out: "Mia, I think you should be careful. I really think Jake is a gold digger." The room fell silent, and the tension was palpable. Mia's face turned from joy to confusion, then to anger. "What are you talking about? How can you say that about him?" she yelled, her voice rising with each word. My heart sank as I realized I had opened a Pandora's box. "I'm just looking out for you. He's always talking about money and never seems to be contributing anything. Can't you see that?" I replied, desperation creeping into my voice. The argument escalated quickly, and before I knew it, my parents were trying to mediate, but Mia was having none of it. "You don't know him like I do. You're just jealous because I'm happy," she screamed, and I felt the sting of her words cut deep. The dinner ended in Chaos, and I left feeling like a villain in my own family. Over the next few weeks, things between Mia and me became increasingly strained. She refused to talk to me, and when we did interact, it was icy and filled with resentment. I started to question my decision. Was I really being a protective sister, or was I just meddling in her life? I tried to reach out, to apologize for how things had escalated, but she wouldn't have it. Jake even got involved, sending me a text that read, "Stay out of my relationship." I felt like I was stuck in a nightmare, losing my sister to someone I believed was bad for her. Then one night, everything changed. I was scrolling through social media, looking for a distraction, when I stumbled upon a post on a local news site. It was a story about a couple who had recently become victims of a fraud scheme, and the man involved had a striking resemblance to Jake. My heart raced as I read the details. This man had been preying on women for their money, charming them into trusting him before vanishing with their savings. I immediately sent the article to Mia, hoping it would open her eyes. But instead of seeing it as a warning, she flew into a rage. "You're pathetic. You're just trying to ruin my life," she yelled over the phone. I felt crushed. All I wanted was to protect her. The weeks turned into months, and the rift between us grew. I was a stranger to my sister, and it hurt more than I could express. Then one fateful evening, I received a frantic call from my mom. "You need to come over now. Mia is upset, and I think Jake is about to leave her." My heart raced as I rushed over to their apartment. When I arrived, I found Mia sitting on the floor, tears streaming down her face. Jake was pacing around the room, clearly agitated. "I don't want to do this anymore," he yelled, throwing his hands in the air. "You're just not the person I thought you were." I felt a flicker of hope, thinking maybe she would see the truth about him, but as I approached, I could see Mia was more hurt than ever. "What are you talking about? I thought we were happy," she cried, and I could feel the weight of the world pressing down on her. Jake turned to me, his expression a mix of anger and disdain. "You're the one who's caused all this. You poisoned her mind against me." It felt surreal, like I was watching a train wreck in slow motion. I opened my mouth to defend myself, but Mia cut me off. "You need to leave. I can't deal with this right now." My heart shattered as I stepped back, feeling utterly defeated. Jake stormed out, leaving Mia sobbing on the floor. I rushed to her side, wrapping my arms around her. "I'm so sorry, Mia. I just wanted to protect you," I whispered, my heart aching for her pain. She pulled away, her eyes filled with hurt and confusion. "I don't know who to believe anymore," she said, her voice trembling. In that moment, I realized that no matter how much I wanted to help, I couldn't force her to see the truth. It was her life, her choice, and all I could do was be there for her, no matter the cost. As we sat there together, I made a silent promise to myself. I would support her, but I would never stop looking out for her. It wasn't about being right, it was about being there for her when she needed me most. In the days that followed, things began to shift. Mia took time to reevaluate her relationship with Jake, and slowly, the walls between us started to come down. I realized that being a protective sister didn't mean I had to control her choices, it meant being there to catch her when she fell. Sometimes, love meant letting go and trusting someone to find their way. Even if it hurt, I knew I would always be there for her, no matter what. My boss expects me to work on my wedding day. Should I quit? It all started as a dream job, a position I had worked tirelessly to secure. The thrill of working in a fast-paced marketing agency was intoxicating, and I poured my heart and soul into every project. But as my wedding day approached, everything began to unravel. My fiancé, Jake, and I had spent months planning the perfect ceremony, poring over every detail, and visualizing the day we would finally say I do. I was ecstatic, ready to celebrate the love we had built together. However, just 2 weeks before the big day, I received a chilling email from my boss, Kelly. It was a reminder about an important client meeting scheduled for the same day as my wedding. My stomach dropped. I was hopeful that it was just a misunderstanding, so I replied, politely requesting to reschedule. But when I approached Kelly in person, I was met with a steely gaze. "You're the lead on this project. We can't afford to lose momentum, especially with this client," she said. "You have to be there." I felt the walls closing in. "But it's my wedding day, Kelly. I can't just cancel or push it back. It's important to me and my family." Her expression didn't change. I understand, but this is a crucial time for our company. You can't let your personal life interfere with your work responsibilities. The weight of her words hung in the air, and I felt a mixture of frustration and helplessness. I had always been committed to my job, often going above and beyond. But this felt different. This was my wedding, a once-in-a-lifetime event, and I couldn't wrap my head around the idea of having to choose between my career and my personal happiness. I went home that night, feeling utterly defeated. I tried to talk to Jake about it, hoping he would support me. But when I explained the situation, his brow furrowed with concern. This isn't just a job, honey. You love what you do, and I know how hard you've worked for this position. Maybe it's worth considering what Kelly said. I couldn't believe my ears. You think I should skip my wedding for a client meeting? Jake, this is our day. I've dreamed about it since I was a little girl, he sighed, rubbing his temples. I'm not saying that. But you don't want to burn bridges either. Can't you find a way to make it work? I felt torn, the pressure of expectations weighing heavily on my shoulders. I spent the next few days in turmoil, trying to find a solution. I reached out to colleagues for advice, hoping someone would have a suggestion that could help me navigate this mess. But everyone seemed to echo the same sentiment: you can't risk your career over one day. It felt like a betrayal, and I began to question the loyalty of my coworkers. Each day that passed brought more anxiety, and I found myself constantly refreshing my email, waiting for any sign of understanding from Kelly. The day before the wedding, I decided to go in early, hoping to catch Kelly and explain my side one last time. The office was eerily quiet, and I could feel the tension in the air as I approached her office. When I knocked, she looked up from her computer, a mixture of surprise and irritation crossing her face. What is it, Jenna? I took a deep breath, trying to keep my composure. I just wanted to ask if there's any way we can reschedule the meeting. I understand the importance, but it's my wedding day, and I really can't miss it, Kelly sighed, her patience wearing thin. I've told you before, this is non-negotiable. You need to put your priorities straight. This is a pivotal moment for our company, and I expect you to act accordingly. I felt my heart sink. I can't believe you're saying this. You're really going to make me choose between my job and my wedding? She shrugged, completely unfazed. You've made your choice by being here. Just know that if you're not there, it will reflect poorly on you. I stormed out of her office, a mix of anger and despair swirling inside me. I had been pushed to the limit, and I felt betrayed by a company I had devoted myself to. When I got home, I couldn't hold back the tears. What am I going to do? I sobbed, and Jake pulled me into a comforting embrace. You have to stand up for yourself, Jenna. You can't let them dictate your life. His words ignited a fire within me. I was tired of feeling like a puppet on strings, forced to dance to the whims of someone else's expectations. That night, I made a decision. I didn't want to live with the regret of sacrificing my happiness for a job that wouldn't hesitate to replace me. I drafted my resignation letter, pouring my heart into it. I explained that I loved my job but couldn't compromise my personal life for the sake of a client meeting. I felt a sense of empowerment wash over me as I clicked send. The next morning, I woke up feeling lighter, but also nervous about the repercussions. I still had to face Kelly, and I couldn't shake the anxiety of what would happen next. As I arrived at the office, I steeled myself for the confrontation. Kelly's expression was one of fury as I walked into her office, the resignation email still fresh in her inbox. You think you can just walk away like this? She snapped. You're making a huge mistake. I took a deep breath, trying to maintain my composure. No, I'm making the right choice for myself. I won't sacrifice my wedding day for a meeting. She leaned forward, her voice low and threatening. You'll regret this. Do you really think you can find a job that respects your priorities? You're going to be labeled as unreliable. I stood my ground, feeling a sense of clarity. I'd rather be unemployed than work for someone who doesn't value my personal life. I want to live my life on my own terms. Her face reddened in anger, but I turned on my heel and left her office, a sense of finality in my decision echoing in my heart. The moment I stepped outside, I felt a weight lift off my shoulders. I was free. I spent the next few days finalizing wedding details, soaking in the joy and excitement. On the day of the wedding, as I stood in my gown, surrounded by family and friends, I felt a profound sense of happiness. Jake looked at me with so much love, and in that moment, I knew I had made the right choice. We exchanged vows, pledging our lives to each other, and every worry about work faded into the background. I had taken a stand for myself and chosen love over corporate expectations. In the weeks that followed, I started a new chapter in my career, one that aligned with my values and priorities. I found a job that appreciated my contributions and recognized the importance of work-life balance. Looking back, I realized that sometimes, the hardest choices lead to the most rewarding outcomes. If you're reading this and find yourself in a similar situation, remember, your happiness and personal life should never take a backseat to someone else's expectations. Always prioritize what matters most, and never be afraid to stand up for yourself, even if it means making tough decisions. My husband's family expects me to pay for their lavish vacation. I never thought I'd be in a situation like this, but here I am, caught in the crosshairs of family expectations and financial burden. My husband, Ben, and I had always enjoyed a comfortable life together, but we weren't wealthy by any means. We worked hard for what we had, saving up for vacations and special moments. That's why, when Ben's family announced their plans for a lavish vacation to a tropical paradise, I felt a pit forming in my stomach. It was meant to be a joyful reunion, a way for everyone to bond and celebrate family togetherness. But when the family group chat lit up with excitement about the trip, I noticed something alarming: the assumption that I would contribute significantly to the cost. At first, I tried to brush it off as a misunderstanding. I was busy with work and preparing for our upcoming move, so I didn't have time to engage in the chatter. But when I received a direct message from Ben's sister, Chloe, it became clear that my silence had been interpreted as agreement. "Hey, we're counting on you to help cover some of the expenses for the vacation. It's going to be amazing, and it wouldn't be the same without you." I felt my heart sink. My mind raced as I processed the implications. Why should I be expected to pay for a vacation that I hadn't even planned for? I messaged Ben, hoping to get his support. "Can you talk to your family about this? I don't think it's fair for me to shoulder part of the cost." Ben's response was disappointing. "They're just excited, and they've always seen you as part of the family. Can't you help out a little? It'll mean a lot to them." I felt a mix of anger and confusion. Why was he siding with them? I had always been there for his family, supporting their events and gatherings, but this felt different. It felt like an obligation rather than a choice. Days turned into a week, and the pressure mounted. Chloe and Ben's parents kept messaging me about the trip, sending links to luxurious resorts, lavish dinners, and excursions that were far beyond our budget. "We'll all pitch in, and it'll be unforgettable," they said, but I knew that my pitching in meant far more than a share of the costs. It meant sacrificing my own hard-earned savings. One evening, as I sat on the couch, scrolling through the family chat, I saw that Ben's cousin had posted a photo of a stunning villa they wanted to stay at, along with a breakdown of costs that sent my heart racing. "We can each chip in $1,500. It'll be worth it." I stared at the screen in disbelief. This was outrageous. I could feel my blood boiling as I typed a response, only to stop myself. I didn't want to cause conflict, but I also couldn't just let this slide. That night, I confronted Ben. "I can't go through with this. I can't pay that much for a vacation that's supposed to be a family trip. It feels wrong," he sighed, running his fingers through his hair. "They're just excited. Can't you try to see it from their perspective? It's not like they're asking for a lot." "Not a lot." I shot back, my voice rising. "That's a significant amount of money for us. I don't understand why I'm being pressured into this." He looked at me, frustration etched on his face. "It's family. Just think about how much it would mean to them. They don't have a lot of chances to get together like this." I felt utterly alone. It seemed like I was fighting a losing battle against expectations, and I couldn't understand why Ben couldn't see my side. Over the next few days, the pressure mounted further. I was bombarded with messages from his family, each one more insistent than the last. "We're counting on you. It'll be so much fun. You can't let us down." It felt like a wave of guilt was crashing over me, pulling me under. I decided to take a stand. I texted the family group chat, stating clearly that while I loved them and wanted to be part of the trip, I could not afford to contribute in the way they expected. The response was immediate and explosive. "What do you mean you can't help out? This is a family vacation. We're all in this together. I felt a knot tighten in my stomach as the messages flew back and forth. Ben's family, the same people I had spent years growing close to, turned on me in an instant. I read their messages, feeling the sting of their words. Selfish. Ungrateful. I was taken aback by how quickly their support turned to hostility. My heart raced, and I could feel the panic rising. Ben tried to mediate, but his efforts only fueled the fire. "You're making them feel bad," he said. "You don't want to ruin this for everyone, do you?" I felt crushed, like the very ground beneath me was crumbling away. I had stood my ground, yet it felt like I was the one being punished. The emotional toll was exhausting. I tried to focus on work, but my mind kept drifting back to the family drama. I couldn't shake the feeling that I was losing a part of my family. One night, after an especially tense day, I heard Ben on the phone with his mom, his voice hushed but filled with urgency. I could make out bits of their conversation, and my heart sank as I heard her say, "Maybe she's just not the right fit for our family." I felt a wave of nausea wash over me. Was this really happening? My stomach twisted with anxiety as I realized that the family I had loved and supported for years was now questioning my place among them because I wouldn't pay for their lavish vacation. I confronted Ben afterward, my voice shaking with hurt. "How could you let them talk about me like that? I thought we were a team." He looked guilty but defensive. "You need to understand. They're just trying to include you, and maybe you should consider that they're right. You don't want to be the one who ruins this for everyone." His words struck me like a slap to the face. It felt like I was standing on the edge of a cliff, teetering between the life I had built with Ben and the reality of being pushed away by his family. The following days felt like an emotional roller coaster. I spent countless hours scrolling through their group chat, seeing them make plans and jokes, all while I felt like an outsider. Finally, the day of the trip arrived, and I was a bundle of nerves. I had made it clear I wouldn't be attending, but part of me wished I could just pack my bags and join them, ignoring the hurt and resentment. As I watched them board the plane and the group photos flooding my feed, I felt a profound sense of loss wash over me. It was as if I was witnessing my life slipping through my fingers. I realized I had sacrificed my own happiness to fit into a mold that no longer served me. In the weeks that followed, Ben and I struggled to find common ground. He was torn between his family and his wife, and the tension hung in the air like a storm cloud. I could sense the frustration building between us, and as much as I wanted to bridge the gap, every attempt felt futile. Then, one day, I received a message from Ben. "I think it's best if we take a break." The words shattered me. My heart raced as I read and reread the message, hoping it was a mistake. But deep down, I knew this was the reality I had feared. I had stood my ground for what I believed in, but now I was facing the consequences. As the days turned into weeks, I began to pick up the pieces of my shattered life. I focused on my work, threw myself into my hobbies, and started to rediscover who I was outside of my relationship with Ben. The pain was raw, but I slowly learned to accept that sometimes, standing up for yourself meant facing difficult choices. In the end, I learned that love shouldn't come with a price tag, and family shouldn't demand sacrifices that push you away. It was a painful journey, but it was one I had to take to find my own strength. I learned to embrace the power of self-worth, even if it meant letting go of what I thought was a forever kind of love. If you're reading this, know that it's okay to set boundaries, to say no, and to prioritize your own happiness. Sometimes, the hardest choices lead to the most profound growth, and no one should ever feel obligated to pay for someone else's dreams at the cost of their own happiness. Entitled "Aunt Tries to Take Over My Birthday, Chaos Ensues." It was supposed to be a day of joy, a day that was all about me, my birthday. Ever since I was a kid, I had a special tradition. I would spend the day with my closest friends, indulging in cake, laughter, and all the things that made me feel loved. This year was no different. I had planned everything meticulously. The decorations were colorful, the cake was a masterpiece, and the guest list was filled with the people who mattered most to me. But then, there was Aunt Linda. My mom's sister. She had always been a bit overbearing, but this time she took it to a whole new level. Just 2 days before my birthday, I received a call from my mom. "Linda wants to come over for your birthday," she said. "Is that okay?" I felt my stomach drop. "I thought we agreed it would just be a small gathering," I replied. Well, she insists on bringing her famous punch, my mom said, almost apologetically. You know how she is. Of course, I did. Aunt Linda had a knack for inserting herself into every family event, but this was my birthday, and I wanted it to be just my friends and me. Can we just keep it small? I pleaded. I really don't want a big family affair this year. My mom sighed. I'll talk to her. But I knew my mom would never say no to her sister, and the moment I heard that Aunt Linda was coming, I braced myself for chaos. The day of my birthday arrived, and the decorations sparkled as my friends began to trickle in. The house was alive with laughter and chatter, and I felt a sense of happiness wash over me. But then, just as we were about to cut the cake, Aunt Linda burst through the door, carrying a massive, gaudy birthday banner that read "Happy Birthday to my favorite niece." I froze, a wave of dread washing over me. Surprise, she exclaimed, completely ignoring my plans. My friends exchanged glances, and I could feel the atmosphere shift. Aunt Linda, thank you, but we were just about to, I started, but she interrupted me with a laugh. Oh, honey, don't worry. This is just a little something I whipped up. You know, make it more festive. She immediately began rearranging the decorations, moving my carefully placed balloons to make room for her ugly banner. My friends awkwardly shuffled around, unsure of what to do. I felt my excitement dwindling as Aunt Linda continued to take charge, handing out her infamous punch and encouraging everyone to drink up. You all need to loosen up. It's a party, she shouted, and the once intimate gathering felt like a chaotic family reunion. As the punch flowed, Aunt Linda began to tell embarrassing stories about my childhood, the ones I had hoped would stay buried. Remember the time she fell in the cake at her 5th birthday? She laughed, and I wanted to sink into the floor. My friends exchanged knowing looks, their smiles fading as they realized that my birthday was being hijacked. I felt the heat rise to my cheeks, a mix of embarrassment and frustration bubbling inside me. Aunt Linda, can we please focus on my birthday? I asked, my voice strained. I'd like to celebrate with my friends. She waved her hand dismissively. Oh, sweetheart, they're part of the family now. Let's just enjoy the moment. The punch continued to flow, and before long, my friends were getting tipsy, caught up in Aunt Linda's wild stories and loud laughter. I watched as the vibe shifted from my birthday celebration to a chaotic family gathering. I had planned games and activities, but Aunt Linda had other ideas. Why don't we all play a fun game I brought? She announced, pulling out a gigantic inflatable unicorn. Let's do a relay race. My heart sank further. A relay race. This wasn't what I wanted. My friends looked bewildered, caught off guard by the sudden change of pace. How about we just eat cake? One of them suggested, but Aunt Linda was already in full swing, dragging everyone outside to set up the race. I felt trapped. I glanced at my mom, hoping for some support, but she just shrugged apologetically, caught in Aunt Linda's whirlwind of enthusiasm. The chaos outside was unbearable. People were yelling, laughing, and running around, and I felt completely invisible. My birthday, my special day, had turned into a chaotic circus, and I was the unwilling ringmaster. Just when I thought things couldn't get worse, Aunt Linda decided it was time for a surprise twist. Let's have a dance-off, she shouted, and before I could protest, she turned on some loud music and began dancing like a fool. My friends hesitated, caught between wanting to join the fun and recognizing that this wasn't the celebration I had envisioned. I stood off to the side, watching the madness unfold, feeling a mix of anger and sadness. I just wanted to enjoy my day, to be with my friends without Aunt Linda's interference. As the dance-off grew more chaotic, with Aunt Linda showing off her questionable moves, I finally snapped. Enough, I shouted, my voice cutting through the noise. Everyone turned to me, surprised. This is my birthday, and I want it to be a celebration with my friends, not a circus act. The music stopped, and an awkward silence fell over the crowd. Aunt Linda looked taken aback, her smile faltering. But I was just trying to have fun, she said, her tone defensive. You're ruining the party. My friends murmured in agreement, and I could see them shifting uncomfortably. This isn't what I wanted, Aunt Linda. I appreciate your effort, but you've taken over my day, and it feels like it's not even mine anymore. The tension hung in the air, and I could see the hurt in her eyes. For a moment, I felt guilty, but I quickly reminded myself that I had every right to stand up for my birthday. It's supposed to be about me and my friends, not a family gathering, I continued. I wanted to celebrate with the people I chose, not to compete with a party that I never asked for. Aunt Linda crossed her arms, her expression shifting from hurt to frustration. You're being selfish. I just wanted to make it special for you. I took a deep breath, trying to keep my composure. I get that, but this isn't how I wanted to celebrate. I need you to respect my wishes. After what felt like an eternity, Aunt Linda finally sighed, the fight draining from her. Fine. I'll let you have your birthday. The crowd shifted, and I could feel the atmosphere changing. My friends began to cheer, encouraging Aunt Linda to join us for cake and games instead of the chaotic activities she had planned. Slowly, she smiled again, realizing that we could compromise. As we gathered around the cake, I felt a rush of relief. I blew out the candles, and my friends erupted into cheers, and for the first time that day, it felt like my birthday again. We cut the cake, shared stories, and enjoyed each other's company, and Aunt Linda even joined in the festivities, letting go of her overbearing ways. By the end of the night, I had realized that while Aunt Linda might be entitled and overbearing, she also loved me in her own way. The chaos had transformed into something surprisingly special, and I learned that sometimes, it takes a little conflict to bring people together. My birthday may not have gone as planned, but it became a day filled with laughter, love, and a newfound understanding between my aunt and me. So if you ever find yourself in a similar situation, remember to stand up for yourself, but also be open to the unexpected twists life throws your way.